Hello and welcome to a very highly anticipated episode of Odyssey of Pages. If you have not seen the introduction video for this game, I highly recommend that you go watch it. I will link it in the description below. But how this game works is that I choose one of my game boards that I will be exploring. This month, we are going to do the jungle, which means for the jungle prompts, I have to read owned books for every single prompt that I get. I just wanted to start off the year strong by tackling books that are on my shelves and not getting distracted by shiny new library books. So we will be checking out a lot of physically owned books in this video. So the way it works is I'm going to be rolling a d12 to move through the board, landing on different prompts. The green spaces represent easy prompts, the blue spaces represent medium prompts, and the red spaces represent hard prompts. The purple prompts are these events that will take longer to complete most times than just reading one book. It will probably be something that will include multiple books, and each space I land on that has a prompt has a point value. So easy prompts are 30 points. Medium prompts are 40 points, hard prompts are 50 points, and I'm gathering those points so that I can buy prizes that I will be gifting myself at the end of the year to enjoy in 2027. If you have not watched my reading goals video and the introduction video, I highly recommend watching both of those. The reading goals video gives you a little info about the point system, and then the Odyssey of Pages introduction video just tells you a little more explicitly about the game itself. So what's going to happen now is we're going to go over to the map and we're going to start rolling, and then I will be giving you reviews, and then at the end we're going to tally up all our points and I will start buying prizes. So let's get rolling. All right, here's roll number 1. All right, 8, starting off pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So a blue prompt. Okay, let's spin the wheel and see what we get for prompt number 1. Short story anthology. Very fun. I have so many short story anthologies that I own and have wanted to get to, but I don't often prioritize them, so this will be fun. For short story collection, I decided to pick up A Cathedral of Myth and Bone, and I actually ended up DNFing this one about, I think 70 pages in. So I read a few short stories, which were very short, like 8 to 10 pages each. And then I tried a novella that was in the middle of this one, and none of them were just really vibing with me. I thought a lot of the very short stories were fairly immature in their themes. They felt very surface level or obvious or pointless or not fleshed out enough. And I know it's a short story, you're not going to get as much fleshing out as in a novel, but I feel like you have to have enough meat on the bones of the story to keep me interested and not have me just read it and go, wait, what did I just read? So I ended up DNFing this one, and I'll put on the screen how many points I'm getting for it because I didn't finish it. So I'll just have those up here. I'll need to calculate how much percentage this was to calculate then how many points I get. Roll number 2. Ooh, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Another blue prompt. Okay, prompt number 2. Still on the blue prompt. So if we get short story anthology again, if we get repeats, we will just spin again because we only allow it once per journey. a genre I've read the least this year. Well, this is the beginning of the year, so I might use a genre that I read the least last year. We'll see. Okay, so for my diversity rep prompt, I went with I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I listened to this on audiobook and I really enjoyed it. This book is a memoir from Maya Angelou all about her childhood growing up into like young adult, early adulthood. And it's a really great story just about life as a Black woman in the United States, as a child who was kind of passed around between her parents and her grandma, as someone who had to navigate a lot of racial abuse and horrible things in her life, and then talking about, kind of aging out of that and deciding what she was going to do with the rest of her life. This was a very powerful read, and I really enjoyed the audiobook. It was read by the author, and that was really fun. So I thought this was a great book, and I believe it gets me 40 points if I'm not mistaken. Number 3. That is a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Blue again. Okay, spin number 3. A book from the bottom shelf. So if you don't know, I have my shelves organized by like books I'm most interested, and it starts here, like these are like my top priority reads, and then goes down. So the bottom shelf on any of my shelves are like the least interesting, so I could pick one from the bottom shelf of any book on my shelves. And then for a book that was on the bottom shelf, it was not on the bottom shelf of my least anticipated reads, but on the middle shelf, and it was The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, and I'm so glad I picked this up. I listened to it on audiobook. I loved it. This is a story about a girl who is in an abusive family, and something happens and she gets sent to live with her grandmother who owns a flower farm. And on this flower farm, her grandma kind of lets women who've had very troubled pasts come live and work on the farm and kind of find new life and friendship and family with all the troubled women that are there. And this story follows Alice as she grows up and becomes a woman while living with her grandmother. And I really enjoyed it. The audiobook was lovely. I listened to it on 1.0 speed, just to listen to the like nice Australian accent of the woman that narrated it. And I just thought this was a really sweet story. Very hard to read at times. Check your trigger warnings before going into this, but really, really good. And I get full points for this one, which I believe is 40. Roll number 4. Let's see if we can get a different color other than blue. That's another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, we're sticking with blue. Okay, spin number 4. A book I wanted to get to last year. Ooh, that'll be an interesting one. Kind of fun. Okay, so for the next prompt, I read Hemlock and Silver. This was for the book I wanted to get to last year, which I didn't. This was released in August of 2025. I'm reading it in January 2026. And T. Kingfisher is one of my favorite authors. However, this is not one of my favorite books by her. I was really excited for this. It's a Snow White retelling about a poisoner who's someone who like studies poisons and how to cure them, is called by the king to come help his daughter, who he is really sick and he thinks is being poisoned. And the story kind of goes from there. It's a very loose Snow White retelling. And while I liked the first third to half of this, I thought it was a little long, and it got a little wacky and weird at the end in a way that I didn't like, and I actually ended up skimming a lot. My favorite part of this at the beginning was our main character like talking about her job as a poisoner, and I wish we'd had more stuff with poisons. I don't want to like spoil things, but there's like a point at where this plot takes a very different turn than the first half of the book, and I found the first half of the book to be much more interesting. I did not like the romance in here. I thought it was very half-baked. Like, for all of this, we didn't focus on it very much, and then it was just kind of like, oh, we're in love with each other, and I didn't feel anything about that romance. It was like kind of nice, but I don't know, I didn't get any like giddy giggles or anything about it. So it was just okay. I think I prefer Tinky Kingfisher when she's writing a little bit tighter books. This one felt a little long-winded. It felt like we were having the same things kind of happen on repeat, where it's like, oh, we're going to go try some things. Oh, this happens. Now we're back to step one, and then we're going to try some things, and something happens. We're back to step one. So I just didn't love it. But it does give us, if I'm remembering right, 30 points? 40 points? I forget if this is a blue prompt. I think 40 points. And I'll move on to the next one. I am glad I read it.
Roll number 5. 12. Don't mind the cat. He's very intrigued by the sounds, and he's involved with the game, that's for sure. He just ran past the tripod. Okay, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. So close. 12.
Spin number 5. Here we go. Spin number 5. Read a book with some kind of diversity representation. Okay, so for diversity rep, I went ahead and read The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the final book in the Angel of Indian Lake trilogy, and this had a bit of a rocky start. As we were going through like the first half, I was like, it's very slow moving and there's a lot of introspection, and I was struggling with it a little bit. But around the halfway point or so, we start to get more of the action, and it just kept going. There was still a lot of introspection, but things were happening, and we kind of got this feeling of Jade, our main character, being overwhelmed by things that were happening. If you don't know what this series is about, it's about a young Native American woman called Jade who has a very hard life, and she lives in a small town in Idaho, and she's obsessed with slashers, and one day a slasher comes to her town, and she's trying to survive through it, figure out what's happening. Are there supernatural things happening? Are there not? And the series follows Jade. Each book is 4 years apart from the previous book, so we follow her over 8 years. And something I loved about this book, because I ended up giving it 5 stars by the end, because there were so many moments at the end where I was just like in awe of how much Jade feels like a real person, and how much I cared for her and everything she'd gone through, and just wanted to like wrap her up and tell her it's gonna be okay. Her friendships in this book are very strong. Hard things happen, but you just, oh my gosh, it was just so good. You're just rooting for Jade the whole way, for things to get easier for her. And the author's note actually made me cry, the very last words, because he was talking about how Jade is, you know, she always sees everyone else as a final girl, the girl who's going to come out on top, the girl who can't be beaten down by a slasher, who's always going to win no matter what. She never sees herself that way. And in the author's note, he talks about how, like, his wife is like a true final girl and how awesome she is and how she stands up for people who can't stand up for themselves. And it made me cry. Like, as I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, she sounds like an awesome woman, and I love her, and I love that he's kind of honoring her in the way of like modeling some of the women in these books after her and the things that she does. And I think that's something I really, really, really loved. Stephen Graham Jones can write an amazing female character. I love Jade, and I love the other female characters that are in this. I feel like he avoids so many stereotypes in fantasy horror around women, and he just writes very real characters who are going to be flawed, going to make mistakes, but have such good heart and just do things realistically. And this was so good. I would highly recommend that you check out this series. I don't watch a lot of slashers. I'm not huge into like horror movies, but I feel like I've seen enough and have enough pop culture knowledge about them, and then the author fills in the rest for you. So this was like 5 stars. Such a good book. And that's going to earn us 40 points.
Okay, roll number 6. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank goodness we're getting green this time. We need some easy things, right?
Okay, spin number 6 is our first one from the green wheel. Let's see what we get. A seasonal read. That'll be a lot of fun. I have tons of books that are seasonal reads that I think would be really fun to get to really soon. All the green prompts are more on the nice side to me, which is nice to have. Okay, so for seasonal read, I decided to go with The Shining by Stephen King because this book is set in winter. I read it in that period over like the last couple days of December and the first couple days of January. And this takes place mostly in the very snowy winter. And I loved this book. This was the first book I finished in the year. I gave it 5 stars. It was so, so good. If you don't know what The Shining is about, it's about the Torrance family, Jack and Wendy, and their son, Danny. Jack has recently lost his job, but a friend has pulled some strings and gotten him a job to be a caretaker for a hotel in the Colorado mountains over the winter. All the staff leave, and they basically just need someone to like keep the place heating so no like pipes burst and like watch over things there. And as they stay in the hotel over the winter, they slowly get snowed in, roads become impassable, and they're basically stuck there together. And they find out that the hotel is basically an evil entity, and it has a strong hold on Danny and a strong hold on Jack, and things go from there. I absolutely loved this book. It was so creepy. I have seen the movie 2 times, and I think this is a lot better than the movie. In the movie, things happen, and it just kind of seems like Jack goes crazy and does the things that he does because he's just gotten cabin fever and is going insane from being alone on a mountain with his family. This tells a different story. Jack has a past that is coming back to haunt him in this book. Jack is trying to be a good father, but feels like everything is stacked against him and is sort of playing into his victimhood a little bit. And then there's a lot more in this story to do with Danny and why Danny is so connected to the hotel. Danny has what's called the Shining, which is an ability to maybe see the future, to see things that aren't really there. He's able to read minds of people at certain points. He's able to speak to people in their minds who also have the Shining. And this is just a story about him and Jack, and the mom is there. She's not like a huge part of the book, but she's there as well. She definitely plays a bigger part than she does in the movie. And this is just about them trying to survive. And things get scary, but not as scary as the movie. And I just love this. The character building in here meant that the more horrifying things got, the more I cared about the characters and actually wanted them to, like, survive, which was really good. It's like we spend a long time kind of building up the tension, building up the scares, and also building up, like, us caring for the characters and wanting them to get healing from things in their past that are hard, want them to be able to make a cohesive, kind family, and you can read and find out if they do that. But I love this. This was great. This is definitely my favorite Stephen King I've read so far, I think. Except for maybe the Dark Tower series. I don't know. That's a great series. But this was really good. It had a lot of heart while also being very horrific, which was really cool.
Okay, roll number 7. That is another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 1 red one. Our next roll might get us out.
Prompt number 7 is from the red wheel. So these are like the hardest prompts. So we could get something either really great or not so great in this one. Let's see what we get. Okay, a book published before 1992. Not bad. This is just encouraging me to get to some backlist, which is something that I always want to be working on, so not bad. Definitely could be worse. I'm sure there's one that's like, read a book that's over 700 pages or something like that on here. And then for a book that was published before 1992, I tried The Crystal Cave by Mary Stewart. If you've watched my most recent Try a Chapter tag, you would know that I read the first chapter and I did not like it very much. I was not very intrigued to continue on, but I didn't want to get rid of it, so I decided to pick this up to try it again, and I didn't like it. I read like the second chapter. I got maybe 30 pages in or so, and I was just a little bored. The writing's a little dry. I didn't really care about the characters. I didn't think I was all that intrigued by what the story was setting up to happen later. So I just decided to pass on this one. I'm only getting like 2 points for it, I think, which is unfortunate, but I didn't spend that much time on this. So we're going to pass and move on to something else.
Okay, roll number 8. Another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm kind of happy we got an event space because the event spaces are chaotic and I want to show you some.
Okay, in our final spin, we get to do an event. So these are special spots that have us do something a little bit different and exciting. Some of them you may have to read multiple books for. Some of them it's just one book. So let's spin and then I'll tell you what it means. But we have 3 things that we might come across in the jungle: the short story swamp, the machete, or quicksand. Here we go. Okay, the machete. So this is how the machete works. I will need to try a chapter of 10 different books. I need to be ruthless about the ones I think I'm not going to get to. And then out of the ones that are left, I need to read at least 3 of them if I kept that many. If I get rid of all of them, it's fine. Then I just get the points and we move on. This will be worth 200 points, so this is a big hitter. I need to read 3 books at least. If I really wanted to read more, I could, but the idea is that I'm trying books and hopefully liking them, the first chapter, but if not, getting rid of them and then getting to the ones that intrigue me the most. So we will be trying a lot for this one, but it'll be interesting and fun. So that's kind of what I mean by the event spaces being very different. It's kind of doing an activity or a longer reading project rather than just reading one book. So there we have it. 8 spins, 8 prompts. So I'm going to share with you all the books very briefly, and then I'll start reading the chapters and I'll come back and update you as I read them in chunks and decide what I'm doing with them. So let's start with books I think I might be getting rid of right away. I have 3 here, maybe 4. Maybe I'll include 4 of those. The first 2 are by the same author, Rachel Neumeier. I tried to read A Winter of Ice and Iron by her at the end of last year, and I DNF'd it right away. I did not like the way the world building was done. It was so confusing. It was so clunky and info dumpy. I did not like it at all. I have looked up reviews for these, and I do not think either one of these are going to be for me, but I do want to give them a try because their synopses sound interesting enough that I'm willing to give a little peek and see if I like it, but I have very high doubts that I will actually keep and read these. Even if I tried to read them, I feel like they might be a DNF based on my experience with A Winter of Ice and Iron. Another book that I'm going to try is A Silent Tower by Barbara Hambly. This is a 1986 fantasy book. It's the start of a quite long series. I think like a 5 or 6 book long series. And I want to try this. It sounds interesting. The back of the book sounds good. I'll tell you about it if I decide to actually read it. If it seems good enough to read, I'll tell you more about it. But Barbara Hambly is an inspiration of Brandon Sanderson's. So that's one of the reasons I really want to try this one. And then another one that I might DNF because I've DNF'd 3 of her other books is Nora Roberts' Montana Sky. I got this book because I know there are quite a few people that really like Nora Roberts, and I just felt like maybe I haven't read one that clicks for me. The description of this one sounds good. Again, I'll tell you more about it if I actually like it and decide to keep it on my shelves. But when I looked this up and read a little about it, I was like, I think this one could work for me. I think it's like a Western romance, but maybe like a modern Western, not like an 1800s, 1700s Western. So gonna give this one a try, but I'm not holding out hope for it. I'm trying to go in with an open mind so I'm not disappointed like I have been in the past with her books. And then I have books that I don't know a lot about, but I think I'm interested in. The first one was on my Storygraph TBR, Whipple's Castle by Thomas Williams. I bought it, and then I was like, why did I buy this? And I read the description, and I was like, that doesn't sound like something I'd love. And so I kind of regretted buying it right after it got to me, but I'm going to give it a try anyways because I'm assuming someone's review on BookTube made me put it on my Storygraph TBR because I don't think the description is what sold me on it. So I'm going to give this a try. It's a novel about an estate that's being passed down from generation to generation, and it's about the family who lives in the estate. Next is a book I snagged at a little free library, and I got it because it is an award-winning dystopian novel by an Australian author, and that is The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. This is sci-fi. It's short. It's in a 4-book series, and I got it for free, so I do want to give it a try, see if the writing style intrigues me, see if the premise is intriguing, but I don't really know a lot about it, so I thought I need to give it a try to figure out if I want it to stay on my shelves. Another book that I know a little bit about, but not a ton, that's Nights at the Circus by Angela Carter. I have not loved the Angela Carter that I have read. I've read mostly her short stories. This is the only novel I will have tried. It's about a woman who lives in a circus and has wings. It's kind of magical realism. Like, we don't know, are the rings real? Are they fake? Sounds like it could be good, but I haven't liked her writing style very much. But I know that short stories can often have much more experimental writing styles than novels, so I'm hoping that this will be a little easier to sink my teeth into. Okay, the next book that I don't know a lot about, but I would like to get to because it's chunky. That is this chunky book by Rachel Aaron. This is her Legend of Eli Monpress series. This is about a thief who is spunky. He's a wizard. Oh, he has a swordsman ally with a magical sword. That sounds fun. I love magical swords. And a demon. And he wants to steal things. This sounds like it could be good. If I jive with the writing style, I think I'd love this. A fun fantasy ride. But I don't know. I've never read any Rachel Aaron. This is the first 3 books, I believe, in this series. And there's more in the series. There might be 5 books in this series. I'm not sure. I'm seeing 5 books here. So I would like to try a chapter and see if this is like a series I want to jump into. Sounds like it could be a lot of fun. And I've heard a lot about Rachel Aaron's books from people who have read them and liked them. So I want to kind of dive in. Okay, and books I do know something about, I just haven't picked them up. They've been on my shelves forever. I want to get to them. First one is Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. This is like an Asian-based fantasy. So this heir to this throne, the emperor's throne, the imperial throne, her father dies and she was sort of in training to take over the role. He dies. She's trying to figure out, did he die of natural causes or not? And learn some things throughout the way. I think this is shelved as like young adult, but it sounds really good. And I'm trying to read more diversely this year, especially getting to the diverse books on my shelves that I own. There's no reason for me to not be prioritizing them. So I really want to give this a try. It sounds like it could be really fun. And then the final book that I have has not been read because the thing that has been scratching this itch that this book will hopefully supply has been Outlander, a epic historical romance series. That one has a little bit of time travel. I don't think this one does. This is Into the Wilderness by Sarah Donati. This is about a woman in the late 1700s who is leaving an English estate to join her family in a New York mountain village. And she falls in love with the man, I think. I have put this one, like, I've had this one for years and years and years because I love Outlander, but I haven't really wanted to start it because this is like a 7 or 8 book series. These books are massive, so it's like I don't want to start something this big while I have another series that's so similar on the go. So I haven't wanted to do it, but I do think I need to try a chapter and make sure this isn't just sticking on my shelves for no reason. I don't mind saving it for like when Outlander is finished and I want something to fill that void in my reading. But like if the first page is not good, if the first chapter is not good, why am I keeping it? Fun fact though, this author loves Outlander as well, and Claire and Jamie show up briefly in this book. She got permission from Diana Gabaldon to like put them in the book so they are canon in this book, which is kind of fun. Okay, it's been a few days. I've read the first chapter of everything, and I'm going to tell you which books I'm going to continue with. Let me just quickly tell you what I thought of all of them, and then I'll go a little more in depth on the ones that I am going to read. So, Nights at the Circus by Angela Carter. I gave up on this one a few pages in. I just don't like the writing style of Angela Carter. It feels very formal to me. And I feel like the prose is distracting from what's actually happening. So I decided to pass on this. This one, I started this one. Again, I read just a couple of pages. The prose really didn't work for me. It was almost confusing to figure out what was happening. Like, it was talking about like this woman's father and then it says Julian stands up and says something, but then that Julian was her brother. But then I'm like, why were you referencing the father and then referencing Julian as if Julian was the father? Very confusing. And then I looked up reviews, and a lot of people who liked Outlander and had read this, because a lot of people recommended it as an Outlander kind of book. Like, if you like Outlander, you might like this. A lot of people were like, this is way worse than Outlander. So I think I'm going to pass on this. I started The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. This opened with an introduction, an author's note, and a foreword. So I didn't realize this is like a super popular 1974, I think Hugo award-winning, Hugo and Nebula award-winning classic. So this is like a popular book, which I didn't know. I'd heard of The Forever War, but I didn't know it was like critically acclaimed. And this is one I'm going to keep for sure, and I think one that I'm going to be reading, because this just drew me in. Both the front matter, talking about like the introduction and stuff. This is a book based off of Joe Haldeman's experience in the Vietnam War. He was part of the war. I don't know if he was like Army or Navy or what, but he was part of the Vietnam War, and this is sort of a dystopian future science fiction about a war that people are being roped into that they don't want to be roped into. And I read 2 chapters because the first chapter was like 3 pages and the next one was like 5 pages. So I read both of them and I really liked it. I think the writing style, because if we're thinking about, the author wrote it in 1974 and he's in the Army. A lot of people in the Army do tend to be fairly rough with the way they speak and the way they think. And this, because we're viewing it from the perspective of a man in the Army, written by a man in the Army, it's very like rough-edged to read, but I think it reads as very real in that way. Like, this is someone who has experienced war, writing about people training to go to war and what that's like. And so I think it captured something there, this like lived experience that Joe Haldeman has. And so the first couple pages, even though there were things where I was like, ooh, that's super misogynistic, I think it felt real. Like, I could see people thinking this way, and for some reason it didn't bother me, which it normally does. I don't know. So I'm gonna keep reading on this because I was intrigued, and it's short. It's only 260 pages, so I feel like, why not? I'm intrigued. Let's see if it's any good. Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. This was not a bad first chapter, but I will say it didn't make me want to like keep reading immediately. I think I will pick this up sooner rather than later, but for right now, I'm not super interested in just this first chapter compared to some other ones. And it could just be because I'm like reading some other fantasy at the moment, so like maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But so this is following like a brother and a sister who are sneaking out of the palace. Someone else joins them. There's a little bit of magic. Things were a little vague. I didn't understand everything that was being talked about, and I think that's why I wasn't that intrigued, is because I just didn't know a ton of what was going on and the significance of everything. But I'm sure that'll get explained in future chapters. It was just this first chapter wasn't like amazing, which is fine. So I'm not going to finish this one in this video, but I probably will try to pick it up sooner rather than later. Another one that I will be continuing to finish in this video, or at least read until I DNF it, if I do, and that's Montana Sky by Nora Roberts. I remembered why I was intrigued in this one, and it's because this is a story about a man who's died, and his 4 daughters, I can't remember exactly how many there were, I think there were 3 daughters, are coming back to the ranch to read his will. That's what we get in the first one. I'm pretty sure in the description, the dad is like, in order to inherit what I have for you, you all have to live on the ranch together. I think is the premise. It sounds interesting. The writing was good enough. I think there's going to be a few romantic partners, romantic pairings in here. And I like sister relationships and reading about them. So definitely going to keep reading this one. If I DNF it later, fine. But I'm intrigued enough to continue on in this one. We have our 2 books by Rachel Neumeyer, and as I suspected, I just struggle with Rachel Neumeyer's writing. The writing style just doesn't work for me. It's a mix of being thrown in and having like a bunch of world building dumped on you with just writing that doesn't make me want to continue reading. And then looking at reviews for both of these, they were very middle of the road, and I'm like, okay, probably shouldn't have collected so many of her books, and then find out they don't like them. But now I know maybe she's not the author for me. Okay, another book that I'm not continuing right away, but I'm intrigued by, was The Silent Tower by Barbara Hambly. So I only made it 8 pages into this one, and it's a little dense. So this introduced us to like I think it's like a school setting. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of world building being thrown in here. But it was all stuff I was enjoying. It was like too dense. And I know, like, if I read the first chapter, I was going to have to reread it. I knew I wasn't going to pick it up right away. So I was like, yes, I think I want to read this. But I don't think I want to continue right now. I want to wait until I feel like jumping into something a little more complicated of fantasy, which I'm already reading for like another vlog, so I think I'm okay passing on this for now. Okay, the final book that I'm going to be reading is Whipple's Castle by Thomas Williams. I finally figured out, after like on YouTube searching for Whipple's Castle, I finally figured out what it was that made me buy this. It's apparently one of Stephen King's favorite books, and he had been on Stephen Colbert and recommended it. I don't remember if I heard from someone else that he liked it or if I heard a clip of Stephen King talking about it. I don't remember. But this is one of his favorite books. I read the first chapter, which was 32 pages. I really wanted to make sure that I was interested in this one, and I sort of am. I don't know if I'll finish this, but I'm gonna give it a go. And it was one of those, while I was reading it, I was like, okay, I read 30 pages, but if I put it back on my shelf, I'm never gonna pick it back up unless something forces me to. So I may as well continue it now while I have that momentum of like 30 pages under my belt. This is a story of the Whipple family. The dad is at least verbally abusive, but probably physically abusive to a lot of the people in the family. And it's about the siblings and the parents as they live their life. I think this is like a multi-generational novel. Our sort of main character, at least from the first chapter, is Horace Whipple, who is the youngest son. He's about 14, and he's odd. He gets mad very easily and will often lose his temper and hurt himself and or others. He'll destroy things. He'll see things in the shadows and just hates this house and wants to be out of it. So I'm not sure if he has some sort of like mental disorder or if this is like supernatural. I'm not really sure. And I'm not sure how well it's handling it, if it is like a mental health disorder. His siblings are terrible to him and make fun of him, except for the oldest brother, Wood, seems to have some like tenderness towards him. So I am kind of intrigued at where this is going, and I've heard the last 100 pages are like really good. If the camera just shook, that's because Blue was literally shaking it. So I'm intrigued to see where this is going, and like I said, I think I need to read it now while I have the momentum, because if I ever pick this back up in 2 years and read the description, that's all going to cut it for me. So we're gonna try to do this one. And then the final book that I tried that I'm not going to read right now, but I was really, really tempted to, and that was The Legend of Eli Monpress. The first book in this is called The Spirit Thief, and I read just a few pages, and I was hooked. Like, so hooked. I just read, like, a sample on my phone while I was at work today, and it opened with Eli in prison, and he can, like, talk to the door, basically trying to convince it, like, you used to be, like, a big old strong tree, and now you're just, like, this little door, and you're being held in place by some bits of metal, and is, like, convincing the door that it should, like, let go of the nails that are holding it so that he can, like, get out of this prison. And it was so funny. It felt very lighthearted. Eli seems like a clever, charming character. So this one was like, I'm earmarking this as I want to check out this series, but I think as far as it goes, like, reading the other three while I have some momentum on them seemed better, and then I'll just keep this as, like, when I want something really fun, I'm gonna pick this one up because I was really intrigued by it. So I'll come back and tell you how I do when I'm done with these books. Just a quick update to pop in and say I am going to be DNFing Montana Sky by Nora Roberts. I got 50 pages in before I put this down, so I read like 2 chapters after I first updated you, and what made me put this down was we got introduced to the love interest in the story, and he was being such a butt. I was like, there's no way I can root for you guys to be together. So Willa is the son of a rancher who died and basically said, you know, my 3 daughters need to live on this land for a year and then they can have it. Otherwise, the land is going to be given over to a wildlife reserve, which is like a really rude move on the dad's part. Willa is the daughter who's stayed at home and worked on the farm, and secretly what the dad did in his will is he wants one of his daughters to get married to Ben, who is a rancher at a neighboring ranch. He wanted the ranches to be merged together by name through marriage. So that's kind of his big plan, is he's like, well, if I just make Ben oversee what the women are doing on the ranch, then they'll have to hang out together, and then one of them will marry Ben. It's kind of dumb. And so the first time that we see Ben, he is talking with Willa about her dad dying, and is like, I'm sorry that he died. And she's like, well, you didn't really like him. And he's like, no, I didn't like him, but I know you loved him, so I'm sorry that, you know, you lost someone that you loved. Which I was like, oh, that was really nice, you know, being nice. And then he does something that, like, irritates her. And he thinks it's hilarious when she's irritated. So he's, like, constantly bothering her to, like, make her mad. And I'm like, dude, her dad just died. Why are you sitting here, like, intentionally making her mad? It was making me angry, and I was like, I cannot root for this man to get together with her. Like, he was being such a butt, and I did not like it. Like, it's not funny to make someone mad intentionally over and over and over again. It was so annoying. And he was, like, totally negging her, being like, well, you're not so bad looking. It was like, get out of here. No, thank you. So I think Nora Roberts is probably not the romance writer for me. This is like the 4th or 5th book of hers that I've tried, and I think 50 pages is the farthest I've ever gotten before. I think her male love interests just really get on my nerves. Hi, so I've chosen my books for the... Okay, I read about 150 pages, and I decided I'm going to pass on Whipple's Castle. I'm just not liking what the author is focusing on, and I know, like, the farther I read, the more the characters would grow up, but, like, right now, he's focused a lot on, like, puberty and teenagers thinking about sex, and it's a lot about being in the minds of a lot of teenagers sexualizing one another in their minds, thinking about sex, focusing on sex, questions about sex. It's a lot of that. So I am going to pass on this one. I have decided to DNF The Forever War. I got to page 54. It's like 20% of this book, almost exactly. And the reason I decided to put this down is because I'm really struggling with the writing style. As we are following these people in this army, they're getting ready to be sent to fight this war against the aliens. They are in training, and training is really brutal. They put the trainees through these brutal simulations and in brutal conditions. They're losing a lot of people. What's frustrating to me is that there's no character development. We are not seeing how characters feel, other than that they're like tired, but like there's no emotions. Like, we're losing people left and right, but we're never told who's close to who. And it's just like event after event after event after event is happening, and we're not getting any time to breathe between events. We're not getting time to explore how our trainees are feeling. And maybe part of that's by design. Maybe that's what a really intense boot camp would feel like if you were in it. But I just wish there was more to hang on to, because I would find myself getting bored by these events because I don't care about the characters. So I just decided to put this down. Again, this was a really random pick from a little free library. I didn't have a ton of interest other than like a vague, it's free, maybe I'll check it out. So like, I feel fine passing on this. So we're going to pass on this, but that means the event is done. We at least tried to read 3 of those books and got rid of them, getting us the 200 points. Okay, let's add up all the points that I have for this journey. For completing the journey, we automatically get 300 points. For the various prompts and events, we got 200 points for the event, so that puts us at 500 points. And then for the individual books, we had 4 books that I read completely, giving me 40 points each, because a lot of them were medium prompts. So that's 160, putting us at 660 points. Then we had A Cathedral, Myth and Bone that gave us 8 points. The Crystal Cave, which I DNF'd and gave us 2 points. And a seasonal read, The Shining, which I was just finishing up at the very beginning of this, and so I got 4 points for what was left of it, giving us 14 more points, landing us at 674 points. But now we need to go look at all the books that I read and get my bonus points situated. So how many hours did I spend writing during this journey? That's a 0. There were so many times I meant to, but I picked up a lot of extra hours working, and to be honest, I just didn't prioritize it. So we're getting in the groove of things still, so hopefully the next journey will be better, but 0 for hours spent writing. For workouts, same thing. Probably getting over the holidays and all the schedule changes I've been having. I did 1 workout, so 1 point there, bringing us to 675 points. For days I met my step goal, I can't see that because I'm recording on my phone, so I can't look and see how many days I met it, but I did make a conceited effort to try and hit this goal at least maybe like half the time. I don't know if I'll do better, but I'll add those in at the end. And then how many books I own did I read and or DNF? Let's go check. So during this chunk of reading, I tackled 9 different books I own, earning me 90 points, which puts me at 765 points. For 500 pages or more books that I own, I normally would get 20 points for each of those that I read, but this month I didn't read any. The only one that I did was The Shining, but since I just read the very end of it, I'm not going to count that. Whipple's Castle was also long, but because I DNF'd it, I decided I'm only going to give me the bonus points if I'm actually spending the time to like fully complete a 500 or more page book. So no bonus points for long books. Book club books read. I did not read any book club books either. Throwback Book Club hosted by Lizzie at Lizzie's Literary Life and Danielle at Danielle Reads. They are finishing up the Twilight series this month, and I bounced off of the first book pretty hard, so I didn't continue on with them. And the Shelf This Book Club hosted by Bailey at Is Bailey Reading. They were reading a romance book that I couldn't access on Libby or my 2 library systems that I have access to. No one had it. Maybe because it was a new release, or I don't know. But it worked out okay because no one seemed to be enjoying it that much. So no book club books. Completed series. I did complete one series, which was the Angel of Indian Lake series. So I'm going to get 50 points. I met my goal 11 days out of the 21, so exactly half. So I'm going to add 21 points to this. This gives us a grand total of 836 points that we can choose to spend however we like. And let's check in with our goals to see how we're doing before we make any choices, because I get, I think, 500 points per goal that I complete. I have to double check that later, but I think it's 500 points. So let me go check, see how we're doing on our goals. So to read or unhaul 100 books that I own, I'm doing very well at this. I have read or unhauled or DNF'd 19 out of 100. Just kidding, I forgot to add in the Forever War. So 20 out of 100. We're 20% of the way there. That's pretty cool. So for getting my Storygraph TBR below 700, this is currently a no. I have 804 books sitting on my Storygraph TBR, and that has gone down. I believe I started the year with 850, so we're making progress, but not there yet. We still have a ways to go. For my goal of reading 10 books by authors I've read before and loved, I have already read 3. So I've read The Shining by Stephen King, Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher, and then The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. So feeling really good about those. And then for finishing all series I started before 2026, I have finished 1, which is the Angel of Indian Lake series by Stephen Graham Jones. I have not started any completed series that I own yet, so that one is still at a 0. I have not yet read any books I would consider to be fantasy greats, those books that you see on everyone's best of fantasy books of all time videos and lists. I haven't read any of those yet. I have, however, been making really good progress in reading books set before 2010. I have so far read 6 books that have been published before 2010, so making sure I'm getting to backlist as well as newer books. I have not yet read any intimidating classics. My goal is to read 3 of them over the year. I am going to be doing a buddy read of Don Quixote with Marcella in the Margins, who's a friend of mine on BookTube. We've talked on Wonderthon and TBR Track, which are some readathons that I love. And we've just been around in the same spaces. And we're going to do a buddy read together, which is great because Don Quixote is one of my probably top 2. That and Les Mis are my top, classics that I'm scared to read. So I'm going to be knocking out one of them, hopefully by the time maybe the next couple of Odyssey of Pages come out. Running my readathon, Raven's Rest, has not happened. You will find out about it on this channel. When I do it, there will be announcements, but I haven't done that yet. I need to be working on that though. I have not yet read any highly anticipated authors that are new to me. I have not read any books in epic fantasy series. These are series that are longer than 5 books. And I have not yet completed Taming the Shelves. I still have shelves on my bookcases that are double stacked, In order to complete taming the shelves, I need to have only single stacked shelves. And as you can see behind me, these lower ones are all double stacked. So, no goals completed, but progress is being made every day. Hi. Blue came to say hi. He's being very lovey. He actually maybe wants to be held for a minute. So I have 836 points, and it costs 500 to unlock one of the prizes. I want to urge you again, if you haven't seen my introduction, both my 2026 reading goals and then my introduction to an Odyssey of Pages, please go watch those because that explains in detail the whole unlocking and prize system. But I think I would like to unlock the cozy reading night. I think is going to be my goal that I want to unlock first. That will cost 500 points, bringing me down to 336. And I think I'm going to buy one prize from that stack as well. So I'm going to go grab the cards and I'll show you how this all works. Okay, so I have my cozy reading night little envelope, and I'm going to unlock the cozy reading day/night. So I'm spending 500 points. That means I can now start adding elements to this prize and start building a cozy reading night that is full of fun, cozy things for me to do. But I don't get to go through and choose. I have to shuffle and choose them randomly. So these each cost 100 points, and I'm going to shuffle and pick one of them to add. And then I'm going to save up the last of my points to go towards maybe unlocking another prize. So I'm just shuffling them up right now. And then I'll show you first what we're going to be adding. Hopefully you can see that. It says, start a highly anticipated book. So in 2027, when I get to redeem all these prizes and I actually do a cozy reading night or day, whatever time works best, I'll be starting a highly anticipated book during that cozy reading experience. So I will continue to add more and more prizes to this, but this is just giving me free rein to start a book I'm excited about. So at any time during this journey, I can buy more of the cozy reading night prompts if I want to. This was Odyssey of Pages, Journey 1 complete. I have 236 points I'm taking into next rounds. I actually already filmed the rolls for round 2, which you'll have to see what map we're going to be exploring in Journey 2. But I hope you had a good time with this. Let me know what you think of this style of video. I hemmed and hawed forever about how to film these videos. Did I just film the rolls and then save the reviews for another video and the goal updates? But I decided to kind of put it in one mega video. So let me know if you like that. If it feels like there's too much, let me know your ideas for how you would like to see it split up. But I kind of like having it all in one because, to be honest, last year I meant to do a bunch of goal update videos and just never got around to them. So this is a fun way to make sure that you're getting to see my progress on my goals, as well as getting to see the TBR game and the reviews all in one video. So I'd love to know if you have any ideas for how you'd like this to change, or if you like it the way it is, let me know. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. If you like this game and you want to see more, I hope to have another video coming out to you not too far after this. So go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.